Welcome back to My Hero Academia Anime Review, episode number 40. Yep, another one hitting this particularly very far. I mean, if you look at it, it's one of a handful of anime reviews I've actually done where it's actually reached this far. Of course, the longest being Boruto, and you got One Piece just behind that. I would say probably the third longest right now is Black Clover. There's also Fairy Tail, Super, and no, not Titan. Attack on Titan didn't reach this far yet. No. I would say this is the fifth longest one I've done so far, but 40 is still pretty good. This one I'm viewing the 80th episode of the anime, which is Relief for the Licensed Trainees, which adapts the rest of chapter 166. Yeah, it finishes up that chapter. It adapts the entirety of chapters 67 and 68. And thus finishing up the Remount Course arc. Now, I'll talk a little about the episode in a minute, but yes, I had a theory that possibly because they didn't mention this when they were mentioning like the hype for this particular season. I mean, the internship arc, yeah, that was definitely going to be adapted. That was one thing they mentioned a lot. They were hyping up, and the cultural festival arc. They said they were going to adapt that. They said nothing about this particular arc. My only guess is because it's short, they can get through probably in a few episodes, and then basically spend the majority of the rest of the season just focusing on the Culture Festival arc, which is, if you're wondering how long that arc is, it's 15 chapters. So expect about 7 to 8 episodes basically to cover this particular arc, but it all depends on what Studio Bones wants to do. The first, now, I should point out that the 166, 160 is technically the end of this whole thing with Bakuto, Shudo, Kami, and Suduru, I think his name is. Yeah, he's one of the guys from the other school, where they finish up their little, let's just say, their exercise with a bunch of elementary school kids, and they actually start fighting them. Well, not exactly attacking these kids per se, attacking their powers. Though Bakuto loses mass in the process, he can get a new one, no problem. So basically, Shudo makes up have Kami. First, yeah, one of the girls using like a love potion thing is on Shudo, but nope, it's on an illusion Kami created of Shudo, and and Bakuto is laughing at this. And also, they actually ended the wonderful sequence first making have Kami using her glamour to make an illusion of the Northern Lights. Yes, the Northern Lights. A very beautiful thing to see. I've seen pictures of this thing. I personally have never seen the Northern Lights at all. It's just basically, it's a effect that you see in the sky, in a night sky. I think the only place you can see it is most like Canada or like New York area, but I personally have never seen it. Not in person per se. I've seen pictures of it. It's a gorgeous sight to behold. And kudos for the anime for doing that. And you also have Shudo, who basically takes the objects from these kids are making ones like hula hoops and like mallets and make it into a giant slide. Yep. Oh yeah, and get the kids up in the slide, having the other guy who uses his whirlwind power to shoot up in the air, not hurting them, but basically have them all slide in the slide, and shoot using his fire power to light up the rings. It made the kids so happy. Yep. I mean, they do cut some slight dialogue here and there. Mostly put, it's exactly the same. And of course, well, you have Meat Boy, basically. Yeah, that's what that's what Bakuto calls the guy who can make people to meat. He does very good commentary in this episode with President Mike, and you see him later on talking to All Might, and the reason why he's talking to him is because, well, a couple reasons. One, because the whole League of Villains of it. Two, it's on the table to do a joint training exercise with their school and UA, which kudos. As for in the case of the students themselves, well, mostly put, you have Gang Orca congratulating them, even though like 4 students participated in this thing, and then they all go home. Yep. And then the rest of the episodes focus on Deku and Atama. He's the guy who shoots a laser out of his belly button. Yeah, where you have basically Deku not doing well in math per se, and everybody basically points out later that something's wrong with him. Like he's basically something's falling behind. He's basically getting sour. And then Atama shows up with some cheese that he made. Yes, cheese. And then something creepy happens. Like, yes. Can I help you?
Raymond,
Okay.
ich will nicht hinein. Ich will weiter.
Alright.
Without having a minute.
Okay. Bye, baby.
Can you hear my dad? Or you let me have my dad in here?
You can come in here, but I'm almost on my video.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, yes. That was just my niece. Anyways, yeah. So then he decides to. They actually edit the sequence in the anime. You have him. You see a pair, someone in slippers. It's actually Atama, leaving, like, acting very creepily, staring at Deku, and leaving things. He says, "I know." Yeah, he talks about it in the next episode, and the whole mention about team ups. And of course, this is a new sequence that's in the anime where they actually have the characters talking paper about Mount Lady with another hero. And of course, Mento drooling at our picture like usual because he's a pervert. Then we have team ups, just like what team ups basically, that possibly is to explore next arc. And then we have gym class with Krotos. He actually is not physically. You don't see him in person. You see him. You don't see him clearly in this episode, which I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know why they did that for. And you hear his voice constantly the whole episode, but you don't see him clearly in the episode. You see like a silhouette of him, but you don't get close with him for some reason. I don't know why. It's weird. Yeah, it's particularly weird how they did it, and like Red Riot basically goes hard in, and Pinky's like so happy with him. It is very heavily implied these two have a thing for each other, but the thing is, this has never been developed. And I personally wouldn't mind these two hooking up at all because these two have known each other since they were in middle school. I don't see why the writer can hook these two up, or at least have these two go on a date. I mean, the only people who you can possibly consider a couple besides these two is Otaku and Deku, who is now Otaku. It's known that she's got feelings for Deku, but Deku, it's implied, but it's never really been explored. But it's been implied that they're possibly exploring it later with the most recent arc of the series, which I'm looking forward to basically seeing that adapted. Yeah, and of course, oh yeah, everybody, use me as your personal punching bag. In the manga, it says sandbag, but yeah, punching bag. And everyone passes except Bakudo, who proceeds to punch off screen. Says to Deku before he goes, I was like, aren't you going to surpass me? Yeah, who knows when it comes to that. And then he talks to Atama basically like he does this whole laser thing, and yeah, he shoots out his belly, makes a hole. It's like, oh look, nail buffet, and then of course he draws like things like deepest water, like what? And then he goes and he tells Gross like, can I take a nurse office so you rest? Like, sure. And of course, he reveals a couple of things about himself. One, why he wears that belt. He says he doesn't take it off because if he does, his navel thing will start leaking. And in the manga, he says it will burst. It's a slight wording change. And he also said his body was not made for his quirk. And he has something in common with Deku. Okay. Though he doesn't know about Deku's quirk coming from All Might. He does not know that. He just knows his body was not made for the quirk. Okay, that's perfectly fine. And I guess after this conversation, Deku and Atama basically became friends. Yep. Of course, see Pinky and Otaku just watching him eating his cheese. Yep. But great way to end the episode. And it seems as though, like, if you watch the episode, it seems like this is just another thing they just added. Because, like, the first portion of the episode, just wrapping up what you could see with the Remodel Course arc, this feels like something from a standalone chapter, which kind of seems like it was. Yep. But starting next week, oh yeah, and also they did add a couple sequences here. Like, they have Nana's funeral in the episode, which that was expected. And the sequence is actually longer than in the manga. In the manga, it's like just one page. Yeah, it's like really quick. It's like a couple pages and that's it. At least the anime actually had the decency to make this sequence longer, and it seemed like it took about 2 minutes of screen time, which I love the fact that this. And apparently Nana got so many flowers, and mostly it was everybody who participated in the Shigaisai raid who was invited to his funeral, which that's fine. Everyone dressed up for the occasion, and everyone grieves over Night Eye. And of course, well, apparently All Might did reconcile with Night Eye before he passed, which that was quite nice. And yeah, kudos Studio Bones Animation for making the sequence so well handled and so, let's just say, so good per se. Yes. But otherwise, that's really it for this particular review. And also, next week, the Cultural Festival arc starts. Though in Japan, basically, the sub is already about 2 episodes into this arc. And the other reason why we're actually behind in this arc, why we're 2 episodes behind, first is because back in December, we took a break for the holidays. Second time, I've not heard officially the reason why that My Hero Academia decided to skip a week for an episode. Yes, as far as I know, there's not been explained reason why. I didn't see any articles about it, just that it did. But yes, definitely with this episode, Remodel Course is over. And next week, the Cultural Festival arc, which I'm looking forward to seeing that next week. Yep, so that's it for this particular review. I got a few more videos I want to do. My next review is going to be a review of the newest chapter of One Punch Man. I'm going to make a slight change basically to chapter stuff, okay? See you next view. Bye.